afternoon. This is Tony Palbicki, coach of the Lake Forest High School Rugby Club. Welcome. We're going to watch the first meeting between Lake Forest High School and Elmwood Park High School today in what turned out to have been a very pivotal match for the Lake Forest High School team. The Lake Forest High School boys really needed to win this game to advance their playoff hopes. Here we see Mike Kilberg taking the kickoff, giving the kickoff to Elmwood Park. Elmwood Park takes good solid possession into a good ruck. Just a real quick note about the kickoff. When we kick off from the center of the field to start a match like this, the ball has to travel 10 yards. As long as the ball travels 10 yards, anybody can contest for possession. Here we see the Lake Forest back line setting up out of a nice crisp little ruck as the boys take the ball out wide. I believe that's Thomas Madison, who had a real nice little run there, dished it off inside to, it looked like Matt Brugioni. I'm sorry, they dished it off into Evan Rivera, who took the ball in to touch. What happens when the ball goes into touch like this is the referee will call for a line out. This is the way that we put the ball back into play after it's gone out of bounds. You can see it looks kind of like a jump ball in basketball. We do have several set plays that we run from the lineouts to try to move the ball around in different ways to not only confuse our opponents but to create time and space for us to run the ball. The big lad right there with the number 7 on his back wearing the scrum cap is one of our new players who actually was a very bright player. He just moved here from New Zealand. That play that they just ran is called Pterodactyl, and it's really just a toss into the line out, and then James McKegg, the number 7, who throws the ball in, takes a real quick little pitch pass from the person who caught the ball in the line out. At this point right now, it looks like Lake Forest scored a try, so they will be kicking the extra point. In rugby, the try is worth 5 points, and the conversion after the try is worth 2 points. This is one of our fine backline players. His name is Evan Rivera, a senior at Lake Forest High School. He's been with us for 3 years on the high school team. Evan is playing at fly half today, and you see he didn't strike that ball very well and did not make the extra point conversion, leaving the score 5-0 in favor of Lake Forest. Now the difference in rugby, between rugby and football, the team that is scored upon kicks off to the team that scored. That may seem a little bit backward, but you'll see that the team kicking off to the team that scored actually kicks the ball deep into the opposing team's territory, and they can always contest for possession of that ball as long as that ball traveled 10 yards. The ball has to be reset at the 50-meter line, and it is a drop kick for the kickoff. That's a really good-looking kick. Ball is taken by Ben Doughboy Duro, one of our forwards. Ben happens to be one of our line-out jumpers, and he is a junior in high school, so he'll be back playing next year as a senior, which is a good thing because he's a very solid young rugby player. He's been with us for several years now. There was a penalty right there for not releasing the ball when tackled, and the Elmwood Park fly half chose to take a quick tap kick, which you have the option to do at most penalties when the referee designates it as a free kick. The tap kick merely means that the player taking the tap kick, as that young man did right there for Elmwood Park, reaches down, grabs the ball, taps it with his foot, and then can move forward. The defensive players, Lake Forest in this case, cannot move forward until he taps the ball with his foot and moves forward himself. The number 10 for Elmwood Park is one of their probably finest players. There's Thomas Madsen for Lake Forest picking the ball up and having a nice run on the outside. You can see he's really galloping down the sideline. Looks like he's got a good jump on the Elmwood Park defenders. He's got Mike Kilberg with him. Nice dish off from Thomas Madsen to Michael Kilberg as he takes the ball in for a try. Now, another interesting aspect of rugby is when you score a try, excuse me, when you score a try, your extra point is not automatically placed at the center of the field. when you score a try, you have to physically touch the ball down in the end zone. So in a lot of games, such as when you saw Mike Hilberg taking that ball into the end zone, play continues in the end zone until the player touches the ball down. Mike was very smart in this try attempt as he touched the ball down very close to the goal line, or to the goalposts over the goal line. His kick is now brought out on a 90-degree angle from where he touched that ball down in the end zone. So it's better rugby tactics to touch the ball down as close as you can to the goalposts so you can line up a much straighter kick. He did not make that kick. He shanked it off to the left, so the score now is 10-0 in favor of Lake Forest. Now the players will hustle back to the line. Not much hustle on Elmwood Park's part at this point, but you see the Lake Forest players are ready to go. They'll move back to that line where Elmwood Park will kick off to Lake Forest again. This was a beautiful day. Not too chilly, not too warm. It was just a wonderful day to play rugby. You can see the sun is shining bright. It was a great afternoon for a rugby match. So here we're waiting for the kickoff. The kickoff will not occur until the referee gives the players the go-ahead for the kick. Now that young man right there was waving all players to be behind the kicker. If there were players in front of the kicker when he kicked that ball, the referee would stop the play. That young man running with the ball right there, his name is Jonathan Babcock. He's one of our new players this year. He came from Highland Park and has proven himself to be not only a good rugby player, but he's also a very good tackler. And up until this point in the season, I believe Jonathan led our team in tackles, or at least was in the top 4 or 5 in terms of tackling. Tackling is a very important part of rugby in that it stops the other team's forward momentum and gives your team the opportunity to contest for possession of that ball. Rugby is a very ball possession-based sport. What we saw happening right there, you saw the referee speaking to that player. I'll get back to it in a minute. He gave Elmwood Park a penalty, and they chose to take a tap kick instead of a scrum, and their fine scrum half took that ball into contact from the tap kick. And the ball has been blown dead at that point for it looks like it went out of bounds. I'm sorry, there must have been some type of an infraction that I didn't see. The referee has awarded a scrum, and it looks like Lake Forest is going to be putting the ball into the scrum. That's Mike Hilberg, our number 9 player. He's a scrum half. Mike has actually played rugby in Lake Forest since he was in 5th grade. He played for 4 years at Deer Path Middle School, and this is his 3rd year playing rugby at Lake Forest High School. I'd have to say that he's one of our better players and has really got some fine skill. Here we see a nice movement on the outside to Mike Maychak, the number 14 wing. Mike showed he's got real good hands. Dished the ball off in the tackle to our outside center, Matt Brugioni, who's just a bruising runner, as you can see. Very difficult to bring down in an open field tackle. Matt just he runs hard and he tackles hard, exactly what a center should do. There's Mike, took a really nice, quick little tap kick that the referee brought back for some reason. Not sure why he would disallow that tap kick, because it appeared to be a perfect timing for a quick kick. Getting back to Matt Brugioni and Mike Maychak. Mike Maychak is actually a senior at Fremd High School in Palatine that decided he wanted to start playing rugby this year. He's off to Iowa State next year, where he'll play rugby also. But he never played the game until he came up and started playing for us this year. He was actually a competitive swimmer, and he picked the ball up real quick and showed that he's a very hard runner and plays with a lot of toughness and learned the game very quickly. Matt Brugioni, on the other hand, has been with us for a number of years. This is his 3rd year playing the game, and he is a typical outside center. The centers really do a lot of the hard inside running with the ball, and they set up the wings to finish the runs on the outside. So Maychak was playing wing today, but he has played both wing and center. Lake Forest scored a try there while I was talking. and the extra point was missed. That brings the score up to 15-0 in favor of Lake Forest. Conditions are pretty windy out there today, and the boys haven't really figured out how to deal with the wind in terms of their kicking. We haven't seen too much kicking for touch in this game yet either, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see all that much if we tried to keep the ball on the ground. That kickoff will be stopped as a penalty. The ball has to travel 10 yards in the air before it can be played. What the referee is option he's offering now is a 50-meter scrum to Lake Forest, which they have smartly accepted. If the ball does not travel the required 10 meters or 10 yards, it does come back to the 50-meter line for a scrum. Scrums appear to be pretty even at this point. Size-wise, Elmwood Park has a couple of big boys, but we have a couple of big boys too playing for Lake Forest. Nice takeout from Mike Kilberg, making the pass out to Thomas Madsen again. Nice little quick tap kick taken by Mike. You can see the number 8 and number 7 and number 2 going right with Mike Kilberg. Number 2, just if we could take a moment and talk about him, his name is Patrick Luby. He's a senior. He's played for us for a number of years, since he was in middle school, around 8th grade. He's a senior now. I believe he's off to South Carolina in the fall. Patrick's always been a very stalwart player. He's just a real tough kid and plays hooker for us, which is a position in the scrum, and in the lineout he's a loose forward. If we're talking about tough players in the pack, we have to talk about our number 8 player who's standing in the back of the line out there with his hands on his hips. His name is Eric Schwarzbach. In the 3 years at Lake Forest High School, has been in the North Shore Rugby League. Eric's been our captain for 3 years. Never misses a practice, hasn't missed a game, plays hard, plays through injury. You can see him picking the ball up at the back of the line out, taking it into contact, and being taken out of bounds. A little bit more about James McKegg. James moved here from New Zealand about a month before this game. James just turned 16, and when he came to see me at Deer Path to find out what he needed to do to play rugby for Lake Forest High School, I asked him, what's your experience? How much have you played rugby? And he said, oh, not much. I've only played since I was 5 years old. So James has a lot of experience, and he brought a lot of experience to the team from his play in New Zealand. Talked to his parents, and his parents actually told me that as good a rugby player as he is, he's a better cricket player. So he brings a lot of skills to the table. Here we have Elmwood Park is going to take a tap kick for a penalty. Great tackle there. I can't tell which Lake Forest player made that tackle. It looked like Bryce DeCamera, who is one of our new players this year. He's a junior from Highland Park High School. Great tackle there by Patrick Luby, open field tackle. Forced a turnover. That ball came loose, and Lake Forest contested for it. Unfortunately, I believe they were called for not releasing the ball in the tackle, not releasing the tackler in the tackle. There's a great example of why the fast tap kick is a dangerous weapon in rugby. When the referee makes a mark, like he's doing right there with his foot and pointing his arm at your team, when he makes the mark, the team that has the ball is going to kick the ball. The opposing team has to retreat 10 yards. In a quick tap kick situation, if the scrum half or if the player from Lake Forest is quick enough and takes that tap kick fast enough, if the other players from the other team are not retreating 10 yards, then the referee will call another penalty until they have retreated the requisite 10 yards. So let's just look at the back of the line out there. You see the big lad, number 1. That is Chris Gutierrez. Chris is a freshman this year, and Chris is playing loose head prop. Chris has actually played rugby for several years for us since about the time he was in 6th grade at Deer Path Middle School. There's a great kick and a great take by Mike Machak, taking it in for a try. When we take a kick like that, the player that kicks the ball has to make sure that all the other players are behind him when he makes the kick. If the player is behind the person taking the kick, then any player is eligible to play the ball as they run up, as long as they were behind the player taking the kick in that situation. It's going to break off. There's Evan Rivera not making the extra points, so that makes the score at this point 20-0 in favor of Lake Forest. Like I said, conditions were rather windy during this game, and I'm sure that played a factor with these guys not making the extra points. That does remain, however, something that we will work and practice on and try to correct before our next game. So here we see many players offsides. They're being directed to get behind the kicker. That's a much better kick by Elmwood Park. There we take the ball nicely. That would Ben DeRoe taking the ball into contact, staying on his feet, not releasing the ball, being pushed back, and a nice surge by Elmwood Park. That's a really good maul by Elmwood Park. Ben goes down to the ground in a ruck, and he unfortunately loses possession of the ball, but it looks like the referee is giving a penalty to Elmwood Park for Lake Forest not releasing the ball in a tackle. One of the rugby laws that the referees enforce very regularly are, that's going to be a high tackle, when you are tackled, when you're carrying the ball, you have to release the ball when you get to the ground. You cannot just be tackled and lay on the ground and hold on to the ball. You typically get 2 to 3 seconds, not a long time, to release the ball. The good thing is that when you get tackled by a player and you're held down in a tackle, something starts, a ruck starts, and there's an offside. There's a nice pass from the scrum half from Elmwood Park to one of his centers. You can see the player putting the ball back behind the ruck. Picture an imaginary line that runs from sideline to sideline through the middle of that ruck in front of the ball. The defensive players, Lake Forest in this case, cannot cross over that imaginary line until that ball comes out of the back of the ruck. Here that ball is still in the ruck because it's in the feet. There's some techniques that we teach. There's a big boy for Elmwood Park, a real rumbling, bumbling, stumbling run there right into contact. They're maintaining some solid possession here. Lake Forest has to make a tackle and get that ball out of their hands. There's one of Elmwood Park's wingers that had a pretty decent game into the hands of their scrum half. They're moving the ball out wide. Looks like they had an overlap, but it was interrupted by the Lake Forest defensive line of players. Let's talk about another player real quick. I believe he's wearing number 5 today. His name is Jason Gunning. He's a senior. Jason played a little rugby in middle school, but then didn't play in high school until this year. He played football for Lake Forest High School for all 4 years, freshman to senior year. And you can tell he's a pretty big kid. He's about 6'2", 6'3", about 225. He's a big, strong kid, which is why he's playing in the second row. We expect all of our big guys to run hard with the ball and really be strong with that ball in hand and make a lot of tackles. One more player that is in that front row that you see on the left side of the scrum. His name is Jason the Crusher Fleisner. Jason's been playing rugby for us since about 6th or 7th grade at Deer Path Middle School and has played all 3 years. He's a junior at Lake Forest High School. He's played all 3 years at Lake Forest High School and has earned the starting tight head prop position. A good athlete, strong as an ox, and lots of endurance out there on the field as a loose forward. Jason's also a very accomplished musician, and in addition to playing rugby, plays violin several hours per night practicing. This is a scrum feed for Elmwood Park. Rock solid scrum. That scrum's not moving. The ball's going to come out for Elmwood Park. 8-man pick by their big 8-man. Picks the ball up, passes it off to their center. Scrum half comes around in support. Good tackle by the Lake Forest forwards. Elmwood Park is still moving the ball, but the referee is calling a penalty against Elmwood Park. It looks like it might have been for a forward pass, which is what I believe it was. In rugby, you cannot throw the ball forward or otherwise propel the ball forward with any part of your body except your feet. It is legal under the laws of rugby to kick the ball forward, soccer style. However, you cannot make that ball go forward with any other part of your body. Now there's 2 different types of knock-ons. There are intentional knock-ons and unintentional knock-ons. An unintentional knock-on may be when a player is tackled hard and he loses possession of the ball and the ball pops out and goes forward. Or if a player goes to take a pass as he's running forward and the ball bounces off of his hands and falls forward. That is an unintentional knock-on, and typically the referee will assign a scrum to address that infraction. An intentional knock-on might be a player charging through the line and propelling the ball forward on purpose with his hands, or if he throws the ball forward deliberately, and the referee will create a penalty in that situation, and it'll be a penalty kick. Now, the penalty kick can be taken in two different ways. The team can take a quick tap kick, which 9 out of 10 times today we have seen them take a quick tap kick just like that right there, or they can kick for touch. If it's a penalty kick, if they can kick the ball directly out of bounds from wherever they are at, and when the ball goes out of bounds, it's their line-out throw-in. So they are able to advance the ball forward as far as their player is able to kick that ball. The referee, I believe, looked like a static maul or ruck right there. Nothing was happening. The ball wasn't coming out. Maybe Elmwood Park was holding the tackler down in the tackle, and Lake Forest took a quick tap kick, but Elmwood Park responded with some pretty quick defense on the outside and stopped their movement. There's Mike Kilberg taking a kick from behind the ruck, which was partially blocked by an Elmwood Park player. Nice little move here by Elmwood Park, getting the ball out wide. Some good passing, met by a very solid tackle from the Lake Forest loose forwards, stopping their forward momentum. Looks like a penalty to Elmwood Park against Lake Forest, a quick tap kick, and their speedy little number 10 took that ball and was called back by the referee for some reason. There's another tap kick, get it right to their number 10. Kind of a bad tackle there. In rugby, you don't want to just tackle somebody and push them down. You need to tackle them and stop their forward progress and hold them for several seconds before rolling away from the tackle. That's the other half of the tackling law. The player running with the ball has to release the ball. The player tackling has to roll away from the person that he tackled. But you have 2 to 3 seconds to roll away from that tackle. We don't want our players to just make a tackle and then jump up right away. It's acceptable to hold that player for 2 to 3 seconds in the tackle, to wait for your players to come in and ruck over that player in an attempt to gain possession of the ball. There, Elmwood Park just put one in against the head, meaning that they put the ball in on the tight head side of the scrum instead of the loose head side. They apparently liked using the right side of their back line instead of the left. Typically the ball is put in on the loose head side of the scrum, but you can put the ball in on the tight head side as well. Referee is deliberating something here with the Elmwood Park players. Not sure. It doesn't look like anybody's injured. Resetting the scrum. Lake Forest's forwards come together for the scrum. You can see Elmwood Park's back line is slanted backward. That is an offensive configuration. They are waiting for that ball to come out of the scrum and to be passed to them if that's the play that develops after the scrum occurs. The Lake Forest line, however, is of a more defensive posture, which is flattened out, and they will be on a straight line across the pitch 10 yards behind the scrum. The flat line is more of a defensive posture at some of these set plays. The slanted line represents an offensive posture. All right, the scrum has collapsed. It looks like he's going to give him one more chance to try to scrum this ball down and hold it up. The front three players in each scrum have an absolutely crucial, pivotal job to do in the scrums. The front three players have to bind tight to their opposing player in order to hold that scrum up. It's important that they do so because there's a lot of pressure put on the front players in the scrum, and if they are not creating a good bind in the front of the scrum, somebody can get injured. There's a nice scrum from Elmwood Park, and they're really applying a lot of pressure here. They need to get that ball out if they would like to score here, and they're literally pushing the ball over the line, and the referee is looking to see if that ball has been touched down. In the game of rugby, if you are in the end zone, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have scored a try. If you are held up in the end zone and prevented from touching that ball down in the end zone, then you don't score. It's not, a try will not be awarded by the referee. So that's why you see players defensively trying to hold these players up in the end zone and prevent them from touching that ball down in the end zone. Another good scrum from Elmwood Park. They're pushing the Lake Forest pack back several feet. And the referee is going to give them one more chance, I would imagine, here to maintain a tight bind on the front. If Lake Forest doesn't hold them on this scrum right here, it could result in a penalty kick for Elmwood Park. The referee right now, I can pretty much guarantee, is talking to the front three for each team. Looks like he's talking more to the Lake Forest players, but he's also talking with the captain, Eric Schwartzbach, trying to figure out why that bind in the front is letting that scrum go down. Like I said, it's very important that that bind on the front three is made effectively by those players because there is a lot of pressure on their necks and shoulders. And if that bind is tight and secure, that lessens the probability of injury. Another really good scrum from Elmwood Park. They just blew Lake Forest right off the ball on that one, and they wheeled it around to the side. It looks like the referee, Lou Balbuena, we've had him for several games, is going to give them one more chance. He's not. He's penalizing Lake Forest, and he is giving the tap kick to, or the penalty kick to Elmwood Park. One of my favorite parts of the game right here, a tap kick, literally meters or feet out from the line. Requires a lot of toughness from the defensive players to stop that player. Typically, when they do that type of a kick that close, they're going to give the ball to the biggest player and just have him hammer it right through, which they're going to do right here. You can see they gave it to their biggest player, and he just literally bulls his way through. The signal that the referee is giving right there is that the tackled player did not release the ball when he was tackled. Like I said, when you're tackled and you go to the ground, you have 2-3 seconds, maybe at the most, to release that ball in the tackle. Generally, you release the ball, you put it behind you, and players cannot encroach upon that until the ball comes out behind you, taken out by another player. In this case, Lake Forest made a very good tackle on the goal line. Nice pass there from the Elmwood Park number 8, by the way. Great pickup by the Elmwood Park inside center number 12. Goes into the tackle. Lake Forest contesting. The ball pops out the back of the ruck. The number 4 for Elmwood Park picks the ball up, gets it into the wing, who's playing inside a little bit. Some good play here from Elmwood Park, some good continuity. They're recycling the ball very well against Lake Forest. You can tell Lake Forest is back on their heels right now defensively a little bit. Elmwood Park, another good ruck from Elmwood Park, a little pick off the back of the ruck by the Elmwood Park forward. And he pushes that ball right in. The ball is out in the ruck. You can see it. Somebody needs to pick that ball up and take a run with it. Elmwood Park player picks the ball up and is called for some type of infraction. Looks like Elmwood Park is retreating, so it must be offsides against Elmwood Park. It's going to be a penalty to Lake Forest. And Mike Kilberg will take a clearing kick here, I believe, and kick the ball out of bounds. Good kick by Mike. Once again, that ball, when it goes directly out of bounds, the line-out throw-in, the ensuing line-out throw-in does go to Lake Forest on a penalty kick. So some good, tough defense from Lake Forest, even though they were back on their heels in the face of some really good continuous play from Elmwood Park. I give Elmwood Park credit. They really recycled the ball quite well there, and some of their role players, meaning some of the bigger guys, the pack players that you're looking at right now in the line-out, really recycled that ball well, and were picking and running with the ball, which is exactly what forwards need to do. So good play from Elmwood Park, but good defense to meet that play. Kind of a snaffled line out there, deflected kick. by Mike. The ball bounced back into the Elmwood Park midfield where it was taken by an Elmwood Park player. Holding in the tackle on Lake Forest was the call right there. They took a nice little tap kick and ran it right into contact. Lake Forest needs to make a solid tackle here, but they've ripped the ball out of the Elmwood Park player's hands. Nice little pass out there from Thomas Madsen to James McKegg. And then a slight mishandling of the ball led to a turnover to Elmwood Park. Good sequence of play here, just a marvelous sequence of play here. Both teams going back and forth. Some good tough defense, some good hard tackling. Just both teams really getting at it here in the face of a 20-0 game for Lake Forest. We have the line-out throw for Elmwood Park, which was taken by Lake Forest on a good jump from Ben DeRoe. Here we have some good hard running right up the middle. Not sure who that was for Lake Forest, but we see the crusher, Jason Fleisner, picking the ball up from the back, picking that ball from the back of the maul. Good maul for Lake Forest. They just moved forward 15 yards on that maul. Good ruck there from Mike Kilberg, taking the ball out of the ruck. Into the tackle, the ruck starts. The ball's loose from the back of the ruck. Elmwood Park crashes the ruck, picks the ball up. Some good hard running from Elmwood Park. You can see them placing the ball nicely back in the ruck or passing the ball back to their players. Some good player from Elmwood Park trying to get the ball out to that speedy little scrum half. The referee is going to stop this play now, however. The number 10 for Elmwood Park bobbled the ball forward. Remember that when the ball is bobbled unintentionally forward, it's considered a knock-on, and the referee will bring that back for a scrum down at the point of the infraction, and it will be Lake Forest's feed for the scrum. That was 8 or 9 minutes of just some really exciting play there in the middle. Both teams just going back and forth with some good solid defense and some good solid ball movement on both sides of the ball. So just some marvelous play. We'll take just a minute to talk about one more player that I haven't mentioned yet. It's our fullback, Marvin Vasquez. Marvin's a junior at Lake Forest High School. He's been with us at the high school level for 3 years now. Marvin is playing fullback, kind of a difficult position to play. There's a lot of thinking involved. Here's some more good play that is being generated here by Elmwood Park. He's going to come back, take a nice quick tap kick. It's their big number 8, just rumbling up. You can see our players literally hanging onto his feet, trying to stop him in the tackle. He's a big, strong kid. And if they're smart, they'll put that ball in his hands every time, or their other big players too, just to create some time and space. Here we go, some more play from Elmwood Park, putting Lake Forest back on their heels. It appears Lake Forest was up for the challenge. It looks like that might have been a knock-on in the tackle against Elmwood Park, so that will be a Lake Forest feed for the scrum down. A little bit about Lake Forest rugby at this point. At this point in Lake Forest's season, we are 2-2. We have won 2 games, and we have lost 2 games. I said at the beginning of the broadcast that Lake Forest playoff hopes really rested on a victory in this game. The top 8 teams in Tier 2, which is the conference that we play in, there's 3 tiers of rugby, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. The top 8 teams will go to the playoffs, and that playoff berth is based upon the number of games that you win and the number of points that you accumulate from winning those games. We'll talk a little bit more about those playoff structures in a moment. We have another close scrum feed for Lake Forest right down close to the line. Look for a clearing kick. Once again, Elmwood Park pushed us off the scrum. There's a good tackle from Jonathan Babcock. Calls himself Sunstride. Good sure tackle. Eric Schwartzbach and Michael Kilberg in there. Michael comes up with the ball, has a little run at the Elmwood Park defensive line. Not sure what the call was there. Elmwood Park tried a tricky little quick tap, but the referee has called it back for some reason. He's giving him a mark. Look for Elmwood Park to put the ball in the hands of one of their big guys. There we go, the big number 8, to try to just bull that ball in over the line. There's a good ruck. The Elmwood Park players bridging nicely at the ruck, burrowing in, trying to take that ball in over the line. You can see just trying to muscle it in there basically to see who wants it more. Looks like right now the Lake Forest defense was definitely up to the task, and they were able to push them back and stop their forward momentum quite nicely. In this game, it sometimes comes down to who wants it more and who's gonna play with more heart at a certain time in the game to prevent something from happening or to make something happen. And at that point right there, the Lake Forest defense just wanted it more than the Elmwood Park offense wanted it. And Lake Forest defense, they were able to throw them back, even though it did result in a Elmwood Park scrum. Once again, good solid Elmwood Park scrum. That is going to be a try for Elmwood Park. A good try too. That's a nice little 8-man pick. That's a basic play in rugby. When that ball comes to the back of the scrum, the 8-man, as long as he picks it up and runs with it, it's a legal play. And their 8-man very astutely picked that ball up and scored a very nice try. That makes the score at this point 20-5 in favor of Lake Forest. And Elmwood Park now has the opportunity for a conversion kick. Remember, well, the referee is going to blow the game down for halftime. At this point, the score of the game is 20-5 in favor of Lake Forest. I'd like to talk just a little bit about the coaching staff for the Lake Forest High School rugby team. There's myself, Tony Palbicki. I've been with the team since its inception, and I also coach the Deer Path Middle School Club. Our other coaches at the high school level, Hans Hulsebos, who is a medical student currently in his residency and is a naval officer. Hans spends a lot of time with the kids, coaching, and works mainly with the forward pack. Our other coach, his name is John Walker. Johnny is a lifelong Lake Forest resident and has played rugby for probably most of his adult life. Johnny not only coaches the back line, but he coordinates a lot of our conditioning with the players. You have to understand how hard these players work. We practice 2 to 3 days a week, and our practices are at least 2 to 2.5 hours long. The practices can include skills, it can include conditioning, a number of different things, but a lot of our conditioning occurs when the kids run early in the morning or at a time that they decide upon. Oftentimes they'll get together at 6 o'clock in the morning and run 5 or 6 miles from the Lake Bluff train station to the beach, and then run some hills for some extra conditioning and back to the train station. Johnny is out there with them running. Whoever shows up for those runs, Johnny's the guy running. He's a little older than most of these guys, and he still runs with them pretty effectively, so that's good for them because they see how important he puts that premium on fitness. And we've had one more, actually 2 other gentlemen from Lake Forest that have helped us. Steve Kerwin, who's a local resident that has played rugby for a long time, has come out to work with the backs with John Walker. And Ed Giangiorgi, who is a local resident, longtime player, and coaches at Lake Forest College for their rugby club, has come out and worked with our forwards on a number of occasions also. So we'd like to thank those 2 gentlemen as well for putting that time in to help our boys get better. Right now, halftime takes, we have 10 to 15 minutes for a halftime break. The halves are 35 minutes long. The referee is the only one that can stop the time during the game. And generally, he'll stop that time for one of 2 reasons. If there's an injury on the field and play has to be stopped to assist an injured player off the field, or if there is an infraction of some kind that requires the referee to give a warning or send the player off the field, play will be stopped for that particular thing at the time. The referee, if there's an injury to a player and he stops play but doesn't stop the clock, that time will be added to the end of the game. The same as it is in a soccer game, that is called injury time. But at the high school and middle school level especially, the clock will just be stopped and the players will be taken care of in whatever way they need to be taken care of. The referee does have the option to send a player off the field for 5 minutes. We call it the sin bin if they commit a serious penalty of some kind, or if he has warned them a number of times for committing a minor infraction, he will, and he does have the option to send them off the field for 5 minutes, kind of like the rugby version of the penalty box in hockey. Since we play 35-minute halves, that is a 5-minute sin bin. At the men's club level or college level where they play 40-minute halves, that sin bin is a 10-minute trip to the penalty box. So right now what we're doing is talking to the boys and going over some things that may or may not need to be corrected during the game. We talk about what we're doing right, talk about what we're doing wrong, address specific players' activities that or things they're doing on the field that may need to be corrected in some way. A couple of players that are not playing in this game, you see the gentleman walking around behind with the yellow flag. His name is Clay Tolman. He's a first-year player. Clay came to us and proved himself to be a very hard runner and a good tackler. Picked the game up real quick, and he's in great shape. He unfortunately suffered a broken nose and is out of commission for several weeks. We hope to get him back for the playoffs. Another player that hasn't made it into this game yet is looking right to the left. Right there, his name is Ari Loomis. Ari is a sophomore in high school in Deerfield and came up to us with several players that he knew from Highland Park. Ari is brand new to the game, not necessarily watching it because his older brother Ace played for us last year and the year before. So Ari is a new player, however, he's no stranger to the game. It's just like a wonderful day. Let's talk a little bit about the playoffs for a moment, because Lake Forest, I think right now at this point in the season, is a playoff contender. We need to win both of our games, this game against Elmwood Park and our game next week, which I believe is against Elmwood Park also, at Elmwood Park. These are games we absolutely have to win in order to make it into that playoff bracket. The top 8 teams go to the playoffs, so that means the way they have it structured, the number 1 team will play the number 8 team, the number 2 will play 7. So obviously the higher we can position ourselves within that 1 through 8 playoff structure, the better the odds are that we will make it past that round of 8 into the round of 4. Playoff games begin the week of May 19th. Playoff games will be played the week of May 19th and May 26th, and then the state championship tournament will be held at the Chicago Blaze Rugby Football Club facility in Lamont on Memorial Day Monday, May 31st. On that day, there will be a number of high school championship games being played at a number of different levels. So we're just about ready to get that second half started here. Lake Forest is ahead. By no means can it be considered a commanding lead at this point. You'll notice in the last 10 or 15 minutes of that first half that Elmwood Park really got their game together, and they had some good continuity. They were moving the ball well. They were putting Lake Forest back on their heels, forcing the scouts to make a number of tackles. We look at each tackle, it's called a phase. Elmwood Park put together several 7 or 8 phase movements there that led to that try eventually being scored on a lovely little 8-man pick on a scrum from the 5-meter line. So that was a good try for Elmwood Park. And we have a low, hard kick to start off the second half. Elmwood Park kicks the ball into the Lake Forest backs. Good ruck from Lake Forest. We see Mike Kilberg burrowing into that ruck to look for that ball. Some hand-to-hand combat there from Ben DeRoe trying to ruck that player off. Nice pass out to Matt Bugioni. Here we see an example of his running, but looks like the referee may be bringing it back for a forward pass. So that ball will go over to the possession of Elmwood Park for this penalty. Looks like if it was a forward pass, it was barely forward in my opinion, but the referee is on the field right now, so we won't question his decision at this point. So here we have an Elmwood Park feed for the scrum.
I'll take care of it, man. I'll
Elmwood Park scrum has been rock solid. Lake Forest has to answer with some good scrumming here. Yeah, Elmwood Park is just pushing him off the ball. It's not looking good for the Lake Forest scrum at this point. Illinois Youth Rugby Association takes safety of its players very important. That's of paramount importance. And as a result, we take it very seriously when the players come together for the scrum. And if you were on the field, you would hear a cadence of directions being given by the referee. Crouch, touch, pause, engage. You'll see the players touch each other real quick right there. Crouch, touch, pause, engage before the players come together. It gives them a chance to come together safely and to make sure the bind is solid for those players on the front row. The players in the second row and the flankers on the outside of the scrum are really not in much danger of an injury in the scrum. It's really meant for the safety of those front three players, the two prop row forwards and the hooker that are binding together in the front of the scrum. There's a lot of pressure on those boys, and you can see they are the biggest, burliest guys on the team, designed to handle that pressure in the front of the scrum. You see James McKegg kind of binding on loosely here on the outside of the scrum. James is going to guard that strong side, watching their scrum half in case he tries exactly what he just did. James made a wonderfully disruptive defensive move there, coming around and disrupting that pass from the scrum half to the fly half. But the fly half still maintained possession of the ball and goes into a ruck. Lake Forest makes a tackle. We see Chris Gutierrez coming in there to try to ruck that ball loose. There's James McKegg coming in on a tackle. There's another good tackle right there by Marvin Vasquez coming up from his fullback position. Well, that could have been Evan Rivera coming in from scrum half, I'm not sure. We see Lake Forest having to retreat 10 yards for the tap kick, which they did effectively, handing that ball off to one of the big players for Elmwood Park to try to ram that ball through right up the middle. You see a good ruck from Lake Forest. Looks like that ball might be coming out for Lake Forest out of the back of the ruck. Nope, it came out to Elmwood Park. One of the big Elmwood Park players takes the ball. He's still on his feet, puts the ball back to their 8-man, who's a very good rugby player. And now we are into the position of having to tackle him. Nice pass from the 8-man off to the 7 to their flanker, and some good tackling there by Lake Forest to kill that forward momentum. We see the scrum half calling for the ball right there for Elmwood Park, but it's a nice little pick, another nice little pick off the back of the ruck. Lake Forest is going to have to answer this real quick. They're on their heels. A lot of defense being played by Lake Forest. There's James McKegg trying to rip that ball out of the hands of that player before he's tackled. And it's a turnover for Lake Forest. Mike Kilby has the ball out to Matt Brugioni again. A nice run on the outside. Matt's going for a nice gallop down the sideline. He's got somebody with him. Looks like Eric Gerber is on the outside waiting for that pass. But Matt was not able to get that ball out to Eric Gerber. Eric Gerber, we just take a minute to talk about Eric, is one of our new players this year. Eric's a senior and was actually a very good football player at Lake Forest High School, running back, and he was talked into coming out by some of his friends that he played football with. Eric's speed and his elusiveness as a runner, even before this, which is his first game as we watched him in practice, really showed that he has some very valuable skills to bring to the rugby field, to the rugby pitch. And we hope that we get to see him run with the ball here just a little bit. There's a line-out throw from Elmwood Park. It bounced off the back of the line-out, and Lake Forest had brief possession there for a moment, but Elmwood Park maintained possession. We see the ensuing ruck right now. Not sure if that ball's on the ground, but it was taken out of the back of the ruck by the big number 8 for Elmwood Park, who's able to dish it off to another player as he is tackled. These Lake Forest players have to make these tackles a little bit more effectively, but they are driving the Elmwood players back. Looks like a good ruck there. That ball could be exposed for Lake Forest to take possession of. The referee once again is calling Lake Forest for not releasing the tackler. Those players that were not back 10 yards on that tap kick cannot touch that player. You see they are being forced to retreat another 10 yards as Elmwood Park has now gained an easy 20 yards in penalties. Here we are with a tap kick. The Elmwood Park scrum half is going to kick that ball out of touch, directly out of touch, and it's going to be Elmwood Park's throw-in for the line-out. The score remains 20-5. Here we are about 8 minutes into the second half, and we see the chess match continues here. Lake Forest really hasn't answered any of Elmwood Park's play just yet. Elmwood Park has been recycling the ball quite well, so Lake Forest has to answer that and figure out some way to take that ball out of Elmwood Park's hands. Good throw in here. Unable to disrupt the lineup, but that ball was not thrown in straight. The ball has to be thrown down the center of that line-out tunnel. The referee is awarding a scrum. I could be mistaken. It looks like it was not because the ball was not thrown in straight. That ball didn't look like it was thrown in straight at all. It must have been an offsides on Lake Forest, perhaps infringement in the line-out. The referee must have seen something that I cannot see from up here. Another good run from their big number 8. He's really showing himself to have some skills here. They give it off to one of the big forwards who is just thrown back in the tackle from the Lake Forest forwards. Jason Gunning in there with just a crushing tackle. Great tackle from Jason, and looks like maybe Ralph Hutchins, one of the replacement backs that came in the second half. They have a missed tackle right there, but the crusher comes in. Jason Fleiser comes in and takes him down. We have some, looks like a good ruck was started with Patrick Luby, and it looks like Eric Schwarzbach were in there trying to ruck that ball. Looks like James McKegg is going to pick that ball up for the tap kick. We'll take a moment here. We have a player down and injured for Elmwood Park. The Elmwood Park coach Bill Boston and Mike Maltasano come out to look at that player with the Athletico trainer. Hopefully it's nothing serious, perhaps a knock to the head or maybe got the wind knocked out of him. That was a tough tackle. He does look like the player that was just rocked in that tackle by 2 or 3 of the Lake Forest forwards, so he may have just landed odd. Looks like he's looking at his leg. Not quite sure at this point what the young man's ailment is, but hopefully he's not going to be injured too severely, and it's going to allow him to finish playing in the game. It's the one thing about rugby players is rugby players do not ever want to come out of a game. They'll play hurt, they'll play bloody, they'll play whatever. It's just the nature of the game itself. And it does not look like this young man is going to continue. That ankle looks like he's in a little bit of distress. So we hope for the best for him, that he's not injured in any way that's going to keep him out of any future games. And we'd hate to see him have to miss a math class too if he has to hobble around too much in school. So we're going to wait for the restart. It will more than likely be a tap kick situation. The referee is talking to the captain from Lake Forest, Eric Schwarzbach, about something, talking to both captains, maybe giving them each a warning of some kind regarding some play that he would like to see them stop. That is very commonplace. Rugby is a very structured game. On the field, on the pitch, there's one person from each team that has the express right to talk to the referee. That is the captain. The referee talks to both captains before the game, and he will talk to them only during the game and not listen to anybody else. If other players are talking to the referee or yelling at him on the field, the referee will, and I have seen it happen, he will have those players taken off the field, and he will put them in the sin bin if he has warned them for talking excessively to him. You have to remember there's 30 players on the field at one time and one referee. So it's a daunting task, to say the least, to keep an eye on 30 players. A good referee generally has to have his head on a swivel to see everything that happens. So here we go. The ball is put into the scrum. Not a good feed. That ball will be scrummed once again. You see James McKegg and Mike Kilberg, they're awaiting the Elmwood Park put in. You see the Elmwood Park, they're putting it in on the loose head side now. They do have more open field. We call it the strong side. The bigger side of the field, we call it the strong side. The skinnier side of the field, we call it the weak or blind side. They're obviously putting that ball in to facilitate some play of the strong side. Here's Lake Forest with some much better ball running, a little bit better rucking, but another turnover to Elmwood Park in the tackle, and they did come up with the ball. However, James McKegg got the ball right back. There's a good run from McKegg, just running straight on, putting the ball back. There's a good ruck for Lake Forest. We see Jason Gunning, another big man, taking the ball, running hard into the tackle, putting the ball back for the ruck, but the ball is snaffled out of the ruck by that Elmwood Park 8-man. Some good play here at midfield. You see him place that ball back nicely for his team. There's a good ruck. Good tackle, good gang tackle there by Jason and Ben Durow. Looks like we could have another turnover coming to Lake Forest. Looks like that ball wants to come out for Lake Forest. But it's going to be a penalty to Lake Forest. You see Elmwood Park retreating. It looks like they were not releasing the ball. There's Mike taking a nice little tap kick. Got that ball out to Eric Gerber. Here we're going to see some speed for Eric Gerber. He is just burning it up the sidelines. There Eric goes in for his first try of the game. That's the speed that Eric Gerber brings to this team. He is just very quick. We saw him go from first to third gear there in a matter of about 2 or 3 steps, and nobody even was able to recover to get close to him right there. Great try from Eric Gerber. That is going to make the score 25-7 in favor of Lake Forest now. So good run from Eric Gerber. A wonderful try. That's some good play on the outside to get that ball into his hands. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to pound that ball up the middle, create some overlaps in the middle with some good running, and then try to get that ball out to the wings to score. Mike Kilberg attempted the drop goal, but like I said, it's quite windy. You can see the trees blowing around pretty good, so that ball was just blowing right back at him. When you kick an extra point in rugby, you can either drop kick it or kick it like a field goal. Mike chose to drop kick it. He has a wonderful drop kick, so but not in the face of this powerful wind today, I guess. So here we have Elmwood Park coming back up to the 50-meter line to kick the ball off to Lake Forest again. There's our crowd. We had a nice crowd of about 40 or so people to watch this match here at Lake Forest College Farwell Field. Also the home of the Lake Forest College Rugby Club, the Foresters Rugby Club, both the men's and women's rugby club, coached by Reed Ingersoll. That kick did not travel 10 meters, so that ball will be turned back over to Lake Forest, and I believe they will take the 50-meter scrum to restart play here. The two coaches there commiserating over what just happened. Here we are. Michael Kilberg's getting ready to put that ball into the scrum. Scrum's a very crucial part of the game. You'll have maybe 30 scrums in a game, average game, 15 per team generally. It's a crucial part of the game to win. You'll notice here, however, that the referee has created an unfortunate situation. He has made the scrums uncontested. I believe that he has made this particular designation because he was not satisfied with the binding of the players on the front row, and therefore for the safety of the players, he has made the scrum uncontested. That simply means that the team that is awarded the put-in for the scrum feed that is, they get the ball out. There is no striking at the ball by both teams. So unfortunate. Some things we have to work on in practice, obviously, to create a better bind in the front. However, the rest of this game we will see uncontested scrums. Lake Forest players are being told to retreat here 10 yards. They're not allowing Elmwood Park to take that quick tap kick. The referee was still barking instructions at the Lake Forest captain, Eric Schwartzbach. You see there's the big fella from Elmwood Park just chomping at the bit, waiting to run that ball forward. Good tackle, good ruck. We need to push over that ball. McKegg came up with a nice turnover there, but the referee is stopping that play again for the Lake Forest, for Elmwood Park not releasing the ball on the tackle. Kilberg takes a nice little quick tap kick, overpasses the ball to Eric Gerber, number 18, who is unable to get to the ball. And the ball will go out for a line out. We have several line-out calls that we use. Different players will get the ball in the line-out. Different things will happen with the ball when the ball comes down in the line-out. You can see we're dropping a couple of players off the line-out at that point to put some bigger players in the back line. The other team has to match the number of players that you put in the line-out. So if we put 2 players in the line-out, they have to have just 2 players in the line-out also. Otherwise, it's a penalty if we throw the ball in before they can adjust the number of players in their lineup. A little confusing, I know, but it's a basic law of the game. So because that ball was mishandled at the lineout, the referee has awarded a scrum, and that will be a scrum feed for the Lake Forest Scouts right on about the 15-meter line. Uncontested scrum. Here we go. The ball is coming back. Mike Kilburg has the ball out. Nice little pass to Eric Gerber out on the wing. Nice spin move from Eric Gerber as he goes into contact. He's got some support. Eric Schwartzbach and the Crusher are coming up. Nice fast tap kick from Mike Kilburg. Very, very good fast tap kick from Michael Kilburg, and he is going to take that ball in for a try. So that is Lake Forest's sixth try of the game by Michael Kilburg. Should be an easy extra point here for Lake Forest to make this conversion at the front of the goalposts. Mike Kilburg is going to give Chris Gutierrez a chance to try to kick an extra point. Chris does have a pretty good drop kick, so we'll see what he can do with this one. Chris, like I said, as a freshman, has played rugby for several years. We anticipate him being with the club for a while. And Chris puts the ball through for the first conversion of the game. That makes the score 32-7 in favor of Lake Forest. Starting to run away with it a little bit here, but we'll see what Elmwood Park does to answer. One thing, you'll see some big scores sometimes in rugby, 50-5, 47-5. You'll see some big scores. It's an attitude of no quarter requested, none given. If you can score a lot of points, you'll score a lot of points. The game's over when that final whistle is blown. As you can see, it's a hard game, and players like to play until that final whistle. Nobody likes to have anything given. There's James McKegg just wrestling for possession of that ball. You can see him take possession. Matt Bergioni with a good rucking move on the outside. Michael Kilburg takes the ball, pass it back to Jason Gunning, number 5, who's got a good head of steam going. There's Jason into contact, rucks the ball back, puts the ball back. Mike Kilburg's there to take it out. The referee is making a bad call right there, saying he did not release the ball in the tackle, which gave the possession of the ball to Elmwood Park. There's Jonathan Babcock trying to get loose on the wing, trying to get some running room. He rucks the ball back. Can't tell which Lake Forest player picked that ball up when he put the ball back, but the ball has been taken out of bounds. And that was Ralph Hutchins, a sophomore player who was new to the game this year also. We hope Ralph's going to be with us for a couple of years. He's really had some good practicing, and this is he's played in a couple games for us so far. There's a quick line-out take by the big man up front for Elmwood Park. Lake Forest has to ruck strong right here to try to stop. The referee is going to bring it out for a scrum down, it looks like here. I'm not sure that ball did not go out of bounds, but he probably saw something in the tackle that he didn't like. But it is a penalty to Lake Forest, so we will have the decision to make what we're going to do with the ball here. It's going to be a scrum to Lake Forest. We see Mike Kilburg coming up with the ball. We've got a lot of open space. We have a lot of space on the strong side. So you see Michael coming through, and he's going to put the ball through on the tight head side, which doesn't happen that often. But we have a lot. We have the entire width of the field, so this could be a good movement for Lake Forest. We'll see what they do with this. Ball comes out of the back of that uncontested scrum. Nice little pass to Evan Rivera. Evan Rivera moving up. There's Matt Bergioni. Nice hand on, nice stiff arm out to Eric Gerber. Lucky the referee missed that forward pass. There's Eric weaving his way through the inside of the Elmwood Park defense into a good ruck. Mike Kilburg is there to pick the ball up, make a run with it. Got that ball out to Matt Bergioni, who's got a nice run up the side. Matt might just bull his way into the end zone for a try. However, it looks like he stepped out of bounds, and he just was notified that by the referee. So he probably just barely stepped out of bounds. And that ball, that out of bounds step will result in a line out throw in for Elmwood Park. It was a close game up until a couple of minutes ago. Hopefully Lake Forest is going to have a little momentum. Nice little throw in there for Elmwood Park. He tries a clearing kick. Michael Kilburg takes that kick. It did not find touch. Out to Eric Schwartzbach, who brings the ball back inside into contact. He's got a couple of forwards with him that are rucking, but the referee is going to give a penalty to Lake Forest. There's Mike Kilburg on the outside. He's passing it off. The player, Lake Forest player, looks like James McKegg was forced out of bounds with the ball, or the ball came loose, and an Elmwood Park player came up with it. Not quite sure what the call is here. Can't really tell. Referee's going to scrum it down for some reason. An unknown infraction at this point. Here's the ensuing scrum. Uncontested, unfortunately. So we're ready to put that ball in. The players are not allowed to disengage from the scrum until the ball passes them in the scrum. In other words, as soon as that ball comes back, now they are free to pick the ball up, as you saw Eric Schwarzbach do right there. A little confusion in the back line. Here we see Thomas Madsen, nice little run, trying to cut the ball back up the middle. He puts that ball back in a good ruck. There's Jason Gunning picking that ball up. Jason's going to get a try here. Ball's out. Turnover to Elmwood Park in the end zone. They're trying to clear that ball out of the end zone. It's going to be a tackle in the end zone. The Elmwood Park player is going to touch that ball down in the end zone. You see Matt Brugioni nicely helping that player up off the ground. Should be a 5-meter scrum since Elmwood Park ran that ball back into the end zone. It's a 5-meter scrum awarded to Lake Forest. That is the penalty for that infraction. So we will have an uncontested scrum for Lake Forest feed on the 5-meter line, right in the middle. We'll see what Lake Forest can do with this. You see Evan Rivera barking some signals back to the line. Evan calls the back line plays. Here's the ball comes out. Kilberg's going to take it. Mishandled by Matt Brugioni. Eric Gerber dancing his way through the line. Eric Gerber is tackled, puts the ball back in ruck. There the forwards are in. We see some good rucking for Lake Forest. Looks like the referee has awarded a try. Looks like Jason Fleisner, the crusher, is going to be awarded his first try of the day. Right now that brings the score up to 37-7 in favor of Lake Forest. This should be an easy conversion. Try was scored right in front of the goalposts. So we'll see who's going to come up from Lake Forest to kick this extra point. Actually, 2 extra points. The try in this game is worth 5 points. The extra point conversion is worth 3, and penalty goals, which are field goals, are worth 3 points. We have not seen a penalty goal or a drop goal attempted in this game yet. Looks like Michael Kilberg is going to attempt the extra point from this spot right here. And the extra point is no good, bringing the score to 37-7 in favor of Lake Forest. I imagine there's about 10 minutes to go in this game. Plenty of time to score some more tries. Elmwood Park lines up for the kickoff. The one thing you'll see is rugby teams, no matter how much they're down by it, that kick did not go 10 yards. That will be a 50-meter scrum. These kids never give up. They play until that final whistle, no matter what. Even if they're down by 60 points, you see them still trying. It's a great mentality to have, I think, not only for the game of rugby, but for other things also. A lot of the game of rugby is about mental toughness. A lot of it is upstairs. You know, it's a very difficult game to play. Very, very, very physical, as we've seen here today. A lot of contact. Every player gets their share of contact in this game. And it's a very, very physical game to play. And if you're not mentally ready for that level of fitness, then it's going to be a long afternoon. Here we have a substitution, I believe, that has we'll have to wait and see his number. I'm not sure if they substituted somebody or not. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, there's the scrum feed for Lake Forest. There's Mike Kilberg sneaking around the side of the scrum, has that ball back to Evan Rivera, who pooch kicks it forward a little bit. That is a good kick, however, it's going to roll out of the end zone, which will result in a 22-meter drop out for Elmwood Park. We see an Elmwood Park player kind of came up hobbling there as he was going back to chase that kick down. Let's hope he does not have any type of an injury that's going to prevent him from playing. 22-meter drop is utilized when exactly what happens just happened. The ball was kicked out of the end zone by Lake Forest. Elmwood Park will now restart play with a 22-meter drop kick, literally from the 22-meter line. They can take a tap kick, or they can kick the ball away as far as they want. The referee brought the ball up past the 22-meter line. Not exactly sure why, but there we have Elmwood Park taking the ball into contact. Here's Lake Forest coming in and doing some good rucking. Eric Schwartzbach just tossed off the ruck. There's an Elmwood Park player taking the ball from around the side of the ruck on a nice little pick. Another nice take from Elmwood Park. Looks like Lake Forest is forced a turnover out of the Elmwood Park ruck. There's Eric Gerber taking a nice pass off the side over to James McKegg, who tries in vain to try to get that ball back inbounds before it went out of bounds. The referee obviously said that it went out of bounds, however, and that this play will be started with a line out deep in the Elmwood Park territory. Lake Forest is knocking on the door here. Let's see if they can push this one in for another try. It's going to be an Elmwood Park throw-in for the line out. Lake Forest has stolen a couple of line out throws from Elmwood Park, so let's see if they can do it here. They're not going to do it here. They did not contest that line out. There's a kick for clearance from the Elmwood Park player. Kicked it directly up the middle of the field. There's Mike Maychak taking the ball strong at midfield, dishing it off to, looks like that was Ari Loomis. Elmwood Park does come up with the possession of the ball on the ensuing knock-on from Lake Forest. It'll be a scrum to Elmwood Park at this point.
Steal that.
Because of the unintentional knock-on. So we have our back line ready. You see they're flattening up a little bit on defense. They have to be 10 yards behind that scrum. We have Matt Bergioni coming off. Looks like he's hobbling a little bit. Not quite sure who they brought on in replacement. Can't see his number. Nice little run from Elmwood Park on the outside. I got to give Lake Forest credit. They've played some pretty good defense today. They've been put under a lot of pressure by this Elmwood Park team, and Lake Forest has responded with some really tough defense. So that's the name of the game. Good, tough tackling is exactly where we need to be. We see number 20 right there. We do have a replacement in the pack. That is Chris Musacchio, Big Texas Chris Musacchio. Chris is a freshman this year, came to us for the first year, and he really has picked the game up quickly and has worked very hard to learn the position that we've had him playing. He's been playing in the front row, one of the front three. So Chris is really enjoying the game this year. He came in, I believe, for Chris Gutierrez, and Chris Musacchio will be playing loose head prop on the left side of the scrum. We have a line-out throw. James McKegg will be throwing the line-out throw in for Lake Forest. It's got to go down the middle of the tunnel. Nice line-out take from James to Ben Duro, back to James. Good hard run around the back of the line-out from James McKegg. Good running. Puts the ball back in good rucking position. Mike Kilberg takes the ball out. There's Ben Duro lining up with the backs in the back of the line-out. There's Mike Kilberg off to Ralph Hutchins to pick that ball up, pushing the ball in. We see we have good support. A lot of yellow jerseys around that ball right now, so good ruck. The referee is calling the Lake Forest team for coming over the top of the ruck, not staying on their feet in the ruck. There's Elmwood Park taking a quick tap kick, very good quick tap kick. Got that ball out. Good hard tackle there. The ball is going to be in possession of Elmwood Park now. Another good tackle from Marvin Rivera coming up from Eric Gerber coming in from his wing position to make a good tackle. Lake Forest is retreating back 10. Once again, Elmwood Park is putting a lot of pressure on Lake Forest right now. We need to respond with some good defense. Lake Forest players move up in defense. We see Thomas Madsen coming up. Nice pursuit and a tackle from Thomas Madsen right there. A little bit of help from Jason Gunning. Ball is laid back in ruck. There we have, call that play big man, where two people pick up the ball and run forward. There we have a good ruck. Doughboy Ben DeRoe clears him off that ruck. There's Mike Kilberg taking the ball up, tossing it back. Here we have Evan Rivera trying to run around the back. Ball is being called back to a point for some infraction by the referee. Okay, Lake Forest is retreating, so it was a penalty against Lake Forest. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the infraction was. Quite possibly an offsides or possibly a forward pass. There's a good tackle. We see Patrick Luby bouncing off one of their big guys there who had the ball. Jason Gunning there in pursuit. There we have another good tackle from Patrick Luby, stopping his forward progress. There's one of the big guys from Elmwood Park charging in, but he is thrown backward in a tackle by Lake Forest. Jason Gunning with his hands up in an attempt to get back on sides to get back into that play. Eric Schwartzbach the same. Patrick Luby waiting for the ball. There's a good break from the number 7 from Elmwood Park. That ball is loose. Anybody can pick that ball up and play it. Must have been a knock-on. I'm not sure why the referee is calling failure to release, but the ball comes back to Lake Forest. James McKegg off on a nice little run straight up the field, utilizing that sideline. Ball pops out. Who's got that ball now for Lake Forest? Who wants it right now? There's the ball, contested in the air against Evan Rivera. There's Evan on a nice little run. He's got the angle. Oh, he's chased down from behind nicely. There's Eric Gerber on a nice run. Kind of a high tackle by the Elmwood Park wing. Some good rucking from Lake Forest. That ball comes right out. There goes Evan Rivera in for a try. He's going to score a try. Nice try. Nice play by the guys. Excellent try. That's a nice try from Evan Rivera. He had the presence of mind to run that ball in under the goalpost. Good try, Evan. That was a good sequence of play from the Lake Forest team. Some good forward play there, getting that ball out to the backs. The conversion attempt from Mike Kilberg is not good. The score remains 42-7. 42-7 in favor of Lake Forest. By my estimation, there must be about 5 minutes to go in this game, maybe less. Players are very tired at this point, kind of a gut check time, see who wants it more. Rugby players kind of look at this, especially the team that is being beaten as Elmwood Park is being beaten right now. You know, who wants it more? Who's gonna score a try here? You know, Elmwood Park looks at it. It's maybe 0-0 in their mind. Let's see who's going to score this try. Who wants it more? Who's going to be tougher out there? Who just wants that score more? So we see Elmwood Park coming up to the line for the kickoff. The Lake Forest players matching their forwards on the correct side of the field. Remember, that ball has to go 10 yards. That's a good kick. Ball is picked up by Jason Gunning. Hard run. Somebody grabbing onto his jersey in vain, trying to slow him down. Good ruck from Lake Forest. Looks like they're clearing that ball out nicely. That ball should come out. Picked off the back of the ruck. Into the tackle. Looks like that ball is going to be coming back out to Lake Forest again. There's Mike Kilberg. He's stopped. Big football pass backward. Not quite sure what the call is from Mr. Balbuena on this one, but it does go to Lake Forest, so we will take it. Mike's going to take a kick for touch here, try to push them further back. But that ball did not find touch for a line out, so the Elmwood Park player has to play the ball. He cannot just run that ball out. Mike Kilberg takes that block kick. There's Evan with a pass out to Eric Gerber. Eric Gerber is stopped short of the try line. There's a good ruck. Eric Schwartzbach coming in to ruck that ball over. This could be a try for Lake Forest as they try to bull that ball over the line. They're being held up in the end zone by the Elmwood Park players, and they are forced out of the back of the end zone in possession of the ball by the Elmwood Park players. That should be a 5-meter scrum for Lake Forest. And that's what the referee is doing. He's bringing the ball out for a 5-meter scrum for Lake Forest. This game is very close to being concluded here. Players on both teams are very tired. But nobody has any quit in them from either side. There's 30 tired players out there that aren't going to give up until that final whistle. That's the name of the game in rugby. So here we go. There's the feed. There's the run. There's the try. James McKegg scores a try. That brings the score up to 47-7, a 40-point deficit. Lake Forest over Elmwood Park. This will be a very difficult, good try by the way there by James McKegg, picking that ball up and moving it to the blind side of that ruck. There's Evan Rivera with a bad attempt for the extra point. Looks like the referee has blown the game down. That is the end of the game. The final score is Lake Forest High School Rugby 47, Elmwood Park High School 7. Now the game doesn't end here. Players will cheer the other team and themselves and the referee off the field. It's customary just to show their appreciation for a hard-fought game, win or lose. And the post-game festivities will take place. The home team traditionally feeds the visiting team. And at this game, Lake Forest High School, we put on quite a spread of hot dogs and everything else that everybody wanted to eat. It's a hard-fought game, and everybody wants something to eat after the game. And that is a very traditional part of the match. See the boys very tired. I think they played a really good game here. The week before this game, Lake Forest played an absolutely phenomenal game against Schaumburg Barbarians. It's a team from the Schaumburg area, Schaumburg High School, Hoffman Estates High School. They played a great game against Schaumburg and won a thriller, 18-17, in the last second of play on a penalty kick from Evan Rivera to win that game. This will bring Lake Forest High School's record up to 3-2 with no draws. Customary always to shake the hand of the other players that you played against. Great thing about rugby, you leave it on the pitch. The guys that you just beat up or were beat up by for 70 minutes, you shake their hand and tell them good game, look them in the eye and thank them for a good game. That's the tradition in rugby. Right now they are designating the man of the match. Not sure who the man of the match is. But Lake Forest High School, they will pick a man of the match both for the backs and for the forwards. There'll be a back of the match and a forward of the match. For information on the Lake Forest High School Rugby Club, you can go to their website at http://lakeforestrugby.blogspot.com, lakeforestrugby.blogspot.com. You can see pictures and video and information about the team on that site. Here we have the traditional post-game handshake. Like I said, you do battle for 70 minutes, and it's tradition to shake the hand of the men that you did battle with. So looks like that's the end of our broadcast. Information, if you want information on Lake Forest High School Rugby, please contact Tony Palbicki. He can be contacted at Deer Path Middle School, or look on the website, and there is contact information on the website as well. Looks like Lake Forest High School is on their way to the playoffs. They have one more game, which will be played a week from today against Elmwood Park at Elmwood Park at their pitch. We do play a home-and-home against Elmwood Park. It's been a really great season for Lake Forest so far, and we do have some playoff aspirations to get into that playoff tournament at the end of the season. So we'll wait and see what happens next week against Elmwood Park and how that game goes. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Like I said, any questions, you can direct them to Tony Palbicki at tpalbicki@comcast.net. And have a great day.
Y'all ready for this?